Tokenization, tokenization, multi-words, merged words, and phantom words. The first issue in 1 to 3 above, how to segment the text into word tokens, appears at first glance to be trivial. A written text normally reaches us with word tokens clearly demarcated by a preceding or following space character or a new line character, which may in addition be accompanied by punctuation marks. For modern languages with alphabetic writing systems, the orthographic word is automatically identifiable in the representation of the text itself. However, an orthographic word recognizable on the page by the white space preceding the following but not interrupting it is not necessarily the same as the word as a morphosyntactic unit, that is, the word token that we need to identify for the purposes of grammatical tagging. There are three main kinds of deviation from one-to-one relation between orthographic and morphosyntactic word tokens. These are fortunately relatively infrequent, so that the one-to-one correspondence between an orthographic token and a morphosyntactic token can be considered the default case that applies in the absence of special conditions. The three exceptional conditions are as follows. Multiwords. More than one orthographic word corresponds to one morphosyntactic word. For example, the sequence, in spite of, consists of three orthographic words, but will more usefully be tagged as a single preposition, that is, as a single morphosyntactic unit. One convenient way to annotate the multi-words is to label each orthographic word with the same tag followed immediately by two digits xy, the x indicating the number of tokens in the multi-word, and y indicating the yth token. Thus, 21 at the end of a tag means the first part of a two-part multi-word, and 22 means the second part of the two-part multi-word. The individual tags with the appended digits are referred to in this book as ditto tags. For example, provided _sconj 21 that _sconj 22 multi-word subordinating conjunction. In spite of, it is written in this way, in _prep 31 space spite _prep 32. Two questions which should be answered in tagging manual are discontinuous multi-word allowed? An example might be phrasal verbs in English or separable verbs in German. B. Which sequences are classified as multi-words and which are not? For example, provided that might be treated as a multi-word in one tagging system but not in another. Second, mergers. One orthographic word corresponds to more than one morphosyntactic word. Most of these cases involve clitic forms, that is, word forms which are phonologically reduced and which show up in writing or being orthographically attached to one another. Proclitic forms are those which are attached to the front of another word, as in French je t'aime, where the verb the, an elided form of the pronoun the, is attached to the front of the verb. Enclitic forms are those which are attached to the end of the word, as in the English hasn't, where the negative particle not is reduced to nt and added to the end of the verb. Other cases of merger are purely orthographic, not involving reduction or the use of the apostrophe. Example, Italian vendetelo, sell it, consists of an imperative verb followed by an appended pronoun lo. Still, other cases are problematic because the merged form cannot be easily divided into separately spelled words. An example is the French form do, where the, of plus la, the, and the English negative auxiliary verb shalln't, which is shall not. There is no generally accepted way to represent orthographically merged forms, but one solution, although care should be taken to avoid ambiguity in using it, is simply to run the words with their tags together without intervening spaces. When the verb lo pronoun, the pronoun am, verb shall, viox, unta, neg. One drawback of this method, evident from the last example, is that it leads to the creation of artificial phantom words like sha, not to be found in any English dictionary, the colloquial spelling dunno, a merger of three word tokens do not know, is even more problematic in this respect. Third, compounds. Depending on the analysis, one or more than one orthographic word corresponds to one or more than one morphosyntactic word. This is a very open-ended category. Basically, a compound may be defined as a word which has other words as its components, but in practice, it is difficult to draw either an upper bound or a lower bound for the identification of compounds. With a word like rainbow, the word is historically derived from two component words, rain and bow, but in the present-day English, the compound is virtually fossilized. To all intents and purposes, rainbow is a single noun in the English lexicon, and only marginally to be considered a compound. With a sequence like word class, on the other hand, word and class are spelled as two separate forms, although some might prefer to spell the sequence with a hyphen, word class, to signal their incipient compound status. So here the sequence is somewhere in the gray area between being analyzed as a single compound and being analyzed as a sequence of two standalone nouns. In fact, the orthographic signaling of the compound is highly variable in English, and the same expression, for example, I plus train, may be written ice train or ice train with a slash or ice train together, according to stylistic taste. In these circumstances, it seems linguistically safest to represent word boundaries on two different levels, which are here represented by bracketing. I underscore noun, bracket open, double bracket open, I underscore noun, bracket close, bracket open, strain, underscore noun, bracket close, underscore noun, I strain. One orthographic word without hyphen. Now the one with hyphen, and then two orthographic words separated by spaces. A and B, A underscore A slash B are then three ways of representing I plus strain as the same compound according to whether the spelling I strain, comma, ice slash strain or I strain occurs in the original. This is the safe course because whichever orthographic variant occurs, the fact that the sequence I plus strain is recognizable as a single compound noun is retrievable in each case. In a way, it shows that the distinction between syntactic annotation and grammatical tagging, with which this chapter began, is not discrete. The analysis of word tokens may also involve parsing into tree diagram-like structures. However, in practice, the tagging of corpora has not meddled with compounding in such depth. The usual practice has been to let the orthography determine whether compound is tagged as one word or as two. In that case, tagset will be tagset underscore noun, and tagset tag space set will be tag underscore noun set underscore noun, tags underscore noun space set underscore noun. The third alternative, tag space tag slash set, this is not slash, will receive varying treatment according to whether the hyphen is regarded as word internal or word external punctuation. Probably the usual choice is to treat the hyphen as word internal so that the tagging will be tag space set, it's not space, tag slash set underscore noun. The cheap and cheerful way of dealing with compounds just illustrated bypasses the whole aggravating business of deciding when an expression is a compound or not, treating the default correspondence of orthographic or morphosyntactic words as an expedient way of forcing a decision. However, the drawback is that if a user wants to use the tags as a means of extracting compound expressions, a very present need in terminology extraction, for example, 3 different searches may have to be made for tagset, tag space set, and tag slash set. A further drawback of this approach is that a second kind of phantom word phenomena may occasionally occur, exemplified by the word York slash San in New York San Francisco flights, or the word post slash cold in post-Cold War attitudes. As anyone who knows English can tell, linguistically, these do not make sensible words and cannot reasonably be assigned a word tag, but they result from the automatic application of the default rule. Orthographic word corresponds to morphosyntactic word. The more complicated analysis, which would permit a logical solution, would be to assign names such as New York a single compound tag, treating them as multi-words, while treating the hyphen as a word hyphen internal, so word internal link. The overall sequence New York hyphen San Francisco would then be considered a larger compound, as indicated by the following bracketing, where each bracket represents a word to be assigned its own tag. Double bracket open New York, bracket close, hyphen, bracket open San Francisco, double bracket close. And the second post-Cold War is double bracket open, post, bracket close, hyphen, bracket open, Cold War, double bracket close. Fortunately, such cases are rare, but they illustrate the difficulties that tokenization occasionally runs into. 2.3 Tag sets. A tag set is simply a list of tags used for a given task of grammatical tagging. Tags represent word categories, but there are clearly room for disagreement about what word categories are useful or linguistically applicable. There is also room for interference from practical constraints, such as the need for speed and accuracy in automatic tagging. An armchair linguist might devise a tag set based on sound linguistic principles, only to discover that a particular tag is incapable of being automatically assigned with any degree of accuracy. If that armchair linguist had to face the consequences of linguistically irreproachable decision to recognize such a category, for example, manually correcting a few thousand examples, he or she might find the expedient solution more attractive than the linguistically preferable one. One example of this from our own experience at Lancaster is having separate tags for the present subjunctive "come what may" and the imperative form "come here" in English. Although these categories make good grammatical sense and correspond to clearly identifiable categories in related languages, in practice they are indistinguishable from the present tense plural indicative form "they come every spring." In the current state of the art of grammatical tagging, it is difficult to distinguish subjunctives and imperatives from other base verb forms without a substantial proportion of errors. The solution we arrived at was to merge the three categories: indicative, imperative, and subjunctive into a single category, finite base form. The base form being the form of the verb which has no inflectional ending or vowel mutation, distinguishing this from the non-finite base form with the infinitive, as in "would you like to come?" A further stage of simplification is to ignore the infinitive finite distinction and simply assign one tag to all the base forms of English lexical verbs. This is what was done in the tagging of the Brown corpus and of the LOB corpus, and also in many other tagging projects applied to the English language. As this example suggests, there normally has to be a trade-off between what is linguistically more desirable and computationally feasible. When a bargain is struck between these two factors depends on the circumstances of individual projects. In general, however, automatic taggers take account only of the immediate local context of a word. If a grammatical distinction is difficult to make successfully using local context, it'll probably be abandoned in the tagging system. 2.3.1 Tags and Labels. It is useful to make a distinction here between tag and label. A tag is a word class embodied in an annotative device associated with a word in the text. But there can be many ways of encoding that category in the in terms of alphanumeric characters. The part of speech preposition may be encoded as preposition, prep, or less mnemonically in the Brown and LOB corpus tag sets as IN. In the more specific category, such as singular proper noun, there are three pieces of information to convey: singular versus plural, proper versus common, and noun versus verb, pronoun, etc. And these may be reflected in the label, which might be noun, prop, sing, or N, P, SG, or following the C7 taxet, see Appendix 3, NP1. There is again a trade-off here between ease of human processing and ease of machine processing, also between conciseness and perspicuity. Three criteria to bear in mind while choosing the labels of tags are: 1. Conciseness. Brief labels are often more convenient to use than verbose, lengthy ones. Second, perspicuity. Labels which can easily be interpreted as more user-friendly than labels which cannot. This means that tags should be, where possible, easily remembered. Preposition by this criterion is better than IN. Analyzability. Labels which are decomposable into their logical parts are better, particularly for machine processing, but also for human understanding that those which are not. For example, NP1 in the BNC taxet, see below, can be decomposed into N is equal to noun versus V is equal to verb, P is equal to pronoun, etc. P is equal to proper noun versus N is equal to common noun. 1 is equal to singular versus 2 is equal to plural. One more advantage of analyzability is that searches of the corpus and other automatic processing tasks can be carried out at varying levels of granularity. For example, the symbol N star can represent all the nouns, star being a wildcard symbol matching any string of characters including the zero string. The symbol N star 1 can similarly represent all singular nouns, and the symbol NP star all pronouns, where singular, plural and neutral for number. It must be admitted, however, that NP1 scores relatively low on the perspicuity level. Many people prefer to use more verbose but recognizable labels such as noun, prop, sing, sing. One can, however, make too much of these criteria so long as disambiguity for is preserved. It is possible and trivial to convert one label into another automatically. The tags of a corpus then may be given labels which vary according to the purpose for which they are to be used. Internally, for machine processing, priority is likely to be given to criteria 1, 3, and 4. Externally, for human friendliness, priority is likely to be given to criterion 2. While we are considering presentation, it should be noted that a tagged corpus can be presented either in a horizontal or in a vertical format. In boxes 2.1 and 2.2, the same corpus sentence is shown in each format. Box 2.1 horizontal format O, and O underscore UH, comma underscore, comma, and underscore CC. Oh, and he did pass his exams. So this is an annotated data in a horizontal format. Box 2.2 vertical format SKO01 2710 interjection, comma, and CC coordinating conjunction. So SK101 is common in all, and then 271 because, yeah, right, I don't know, it is just numbered. Okay. Again, a corpus or a text may be trivially converted from one format to the other, but the choice of format may have consequences for the choice of labels. For example, verbose labels are more conveniently handled in the vertical format than in the horizontal one. 2.3.2 Logical tag sets. The idea of logical tag set is that the relations word between the word categories symbolized by tags should be represented as a hierarchical tree, not as PS tree, but a tree of features and attributes, with attributes being inherited from one level of the tree to another. Let us take the example of C7 tagset applied to a part of the BNC by the Lancaster team. At the most general level, the tree distinguishes part-of-speech categories. N is equal to noun, V is verb, J is adjective, R is adverb, P is pronoun, D is determiner, A is article, C is conjunction, M is numeral, I is preposition, etc. Beneath each of these major parts of speech, there are subordinate attributes such as P is proper noun, N is common for nouns, P is personal, N is indefinite for pronouns. Note that the meanings of these symbols are context dependent, such that P following an N means proper, whereas P following another P means personal. It should also be noted that the same alphanumeric symbol in a particular position in the sequence of symbols in the label may have the same meaning across different branches of the tree. For example, Q as the third character signifies a WH word, 1 and 2 as the final characters signify singular and plural. Figure 2.2 overleaf is a summary representation of part of the C7 tagset as a hierarchical logical tagset. At the right-hand side of each line, a tag label such as NN2 is given together with a brief definition of the tag, and in the brackets one or two examples. The whole of the C7 tagset is listed in Appendix 3. 2.3.3 The size and composition of tag sets. The size of a tag set is less important than it might seem. It is relatively easy to increase or decrease the size of the tag set according to the emphasis that a particular project has. The core of the tag set will tend to be major word classes with their principal subclasses as illustrated above. But perhaps of more note are the peripheral elements which need to be marked in a corpus and which tend to be ignored unless a corpus analyst we are doggedly trying to assign a meaningful tag to each and every word token in a text. For a written corpus, certain categories of WIC word initial capital words are easy to recognize and can be semantically and syntactically significant in their own right, even though they do not feature in traditional morphosyntax. Examples are month nouns, January, nouns, Tuesday, day nouns, and adjective and common nouns derived from the proper nouns Frenchman. In spoken corpora, on the other hand, it would be more useful to distinguish certain types of discourse marker, well or hesitant marker, rather than to lump these together with interjections. Some tags represent single-tone word classes with only one member. In English existential, there the negative particle not and infinitive marker "to" are often each given in unique tag because of their unique syntactic behavior. There remains
There remains when these have to be dealt with a residuum of phenomena such as formula P23 C colon slash Windows etc. and foreign words Timeo danos e dona ferentes and punctuation marks as in comma or dot or exclamation mark, which although they are not words are conveniently treated as words for the purposes of grammatical tagging. Given these various components of tag sets for English tend to vary between 30 and 200 members. Examples are given in Table 2.1. The number increases greatly for tag sets including subcategorization, features for valency such as transitive and intransitive for verbs. So, what Table 2.1? This is Table 2.1. Some tag sets for English: Tosca tag set, Van Halteren and Oostdijk 1993, 32. Penn tag set, Marcus and Santorini 1992. That was 1993. 36. BNCC 5 tag set, 61. Brown tag set, Green and Rubin 1971. Francis 1980. 77. Lob tag set, Garside et al. 1987. 132. London Lund Corpus tag set, Swartwick and Yeg Olofsson 1982. 197 tag sets, Tosca ICE tag set, Van Halteren forthcoming 270 tag sets. And now we will discuss the part of the C7 tag set presented as a logical tag set.